So that's part the continuation of the body mapping, and even if you haven't had the body mapping, but we're using mm, the the triggers or whatever you want to call. They're not quite triggers, but they're just they get triggered, I should say. Every area of the body has like these different instinctual responses and emotional responses that then later affect how we react, how we feel, and eventually how we think. And a good example of this is a combination of these would produce guilt or shame or abandonment or things of this nature. And so it's not just something in the psyche; it's actually these things affect the psyche. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take these different combinations. There's like these little recipes based on the things that we learned in the body mapping. And then we do combinations. In alchemy, we would call these compounds, right? You would take these different things and compound it together and go through, do a purification process or a transmutation process to address something so that a lot of times, like when we think of abandonment, you're like, oh, I worked it emotionally, I worked it mentally, and I feel better, but I still feel it. Like the biggest part of it is actually in your physiology. So we're going to flesh it out of the physiology and then through the emotions and the mind. And the key there is the thymus, and we'll be working using different blends that are associated with um, working alchemical processes to extract these things out of the body and transmute them so that there's um, better physical health, better emotional and mental like function. But again, it impacts things like behavior, but our ability to connect to other people, to the divine, whatever it might be. And it starts to change our responses to stimuli from the outer world. Like it increases the ability to turn inward, but it changes the way we react to the external stimuli. So by going through and doing this, you're actually tempering to a much higher degree the vagus nerve, you're regulating the accessory nerve, and you're starting to bring the sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is the fight flight response, under greater control of the cerebral spinal fluid mechanisms, which really, really super refine the mental body. Like, when you have repetitive thoughts and negative thoughts or just reactive thoughts, part of it is that the sympathetic part of the nervous system is more reactive to these things in the body rather than to the influence of the brain and the higher mechanisms. And so it's not just something where you're stimulating your energy body, you're going into your physiology to produce this response. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very deeply healing. Yeah. Like so many times, I think I've said in the past, I'd have psychologists, when I was working with the different groups, they'd come in and I'd say, okay, is there anything you need to, want to work on or focus on? They go, nope, I've, been in therapy myself and I've, worked through all my stuff. And within 2 minutes, they'd start crying when just as I would start the general healing, not even going at anything specific. And almost always they would say some version of, I don't understand why this is happening. And mentally and emotionally it had gotten processed, but it was still trapped in the body. These things get very, very trapped in the body. And different issues get trapped, like they get trapped, or this area gets like agitated in the body, and if you don't know where to look, it just is always there. It doesn't matter how much you go through and process, it's just always there. So this is like changing the game. Like you're pulling it out of the body, and then you're processing it emotionally, mentally, and flushing it out. And so um It's a very deep form of healing. Yeah. Very soothing. Like it's not like you're going to have to relive stuff and go, oh, that thing that happened 20 years ago. It will just float away like a butterfly. Like it's not like stuff comes up. Yeah, who doesn't love that?
Mhm.